everybody's here. I don't see Dimitri, but Danny's here. He can probably update for DK on this comes at some point. All right. So we usually start with CFF, so might as well do that. Chip is here to give us the update because Swana, I think, is at OSCON.
She is, in fact, at OSCON. And that'd be maybe the first point to make. If anybody here is at OSCON, feel free to swing by the booth. They'd love to see you. Swana and Melissa from the foundation are there, and there'll be various members of the community that are volunteering to help us at the booth as well. There's actually some pretty decent CF content that's been going on there. Okay, our own event, we've got Basel coming up. We launched the schedule, so that's live. More talks will start showing up over the course of the next month or so, but the core schedule's there. Really good mix of end users, interesting technology. So I think the schedule turned out really well, and we want to thank all the track chairs who spent quite a bit of time reviewing hundreds of submissions and kind of narrowing it down. So amazing material was proposed. So that should be a lot of fun. Swana tells me to remember to tell everyone that early bird registration ends on the 18th today. So if you want the discount, you should do that. Although if you're a contributor, there's our usual contributor code. If you have any questions or changes, if you're a speaker and you need to get in touch with the events team, use speakers@cloudfoundry.org. I'm reading from a list, obviously. Let's see. The other thing was that we put out a member survey. This was sent out to the points of contact that we have at each one of the corporate members of the foundation. We're looking for feedback. We do this about twice a year. So just a reminder, if you happen to be the point of contact, or in particular, if you're at a small company that's a member, just make sure we get your feedback. That would be great, because we do better if you tell us what we can do for you. And then I think the last point I'll make is a little bit of PMC lead news with Dimitri choosing to step back from the PMC lead role for Bosch. That, number one, he's going to be missed, right? Dimitri's been the stoic leader of, I think as someone else said, maybe it was Dr. Max, of the Bosch project for many years now. He's moving on to go do some different things within Pivotal. And has nominated Marco from SAP, who's been the project lead of the European contingent for the Bosch project for quite some time, to take on the PMC lead role. But nominations are open. If anyone who's been active in that project wants to be considered, you can email me directly. You can see more details about this on the Bosch mailing list. So with that, that's all I had for today.
All right, thank you, Chip. Let's see if there's any question. I'm looking at the chat also, so if you have a question on the chat or on Slack, feel free to mention it. I see that Chris Clark is here. Chris, do you know if we'll have a hackathon and like other stuff going on at Basel? Tell some people.
Hey Max, yeah, we'll absolutely be having another hackathon. Last one in Boston was really successful, so hoping we get a lot of people who want to participate. But yeah, there'll be a hackathon.
Excellent. And I think part of the way the hackathon, this is just to kind of remind people that don't participate. I think when you register, there's a little checkbox that says, hey, do you want to register also for the hackathon? Obviously, if you're not sure, we would suggest you to just say yes, and then you can always not attend. We would rather not. But the other thing also is that if you don't check the box, we don't know how many people, so it's hard for us to control. So please check the box. I would say just check the box if you can. And even if you don't check the box, still swing by. Obviously, the way hackathon works is you put a team together and you try to build something cool. As you remember, last year or last time, the winner did the Ethereum stuff, and it's actually going to extensions, and we'll talk about this later. So there's lots of advantages, so consider participating. Okay, with that, unless there are any question about CFF, we're gonna move to kind of the quick highlights of the PMCs and then the two talks that we have. So I don't see any questions. Okay, cool. So we usually start with runtime. We have Eric here. And hey, so maybe you can update us.
Yeah, let me think about a few things that have been particularly exciting or interesting on the CF application runtime front. Recently, the routing team had a proposal about some of the user experience for weighted routing posted to CF Dev. So certainly if you have any feedback or thoughts on that, I think they'd appreciate it. But they're also looking at that as one potential new feature for the routing tier in Cloud Foundry that's going to drive their integration with the Istio system that they've been working on for a while. I think also the CAPI team is making significant progress on rolling application updates. I think that they may be close to having something that the community can experiment with more confidently. And then also, Jules, maybe I see is on the line and can speak more to this, but the Garden team just incepted on some ideas about providing both better CPU monitoring and context inside of CF, and then better controls with respect to that.
Yes. We heard you loud and clear, and only 2 or 3 years later, we are going to fix it all.
It's very responsive, Jules.
You are welcome. You feel free to thank us in advance.
Jules is from
we iterate fast here.
I will say quite seriously, the proposals on CF Dev, we've just incepted on it, but feedback is very welcome. We're planning to do this like quite iteratively and with lots of communications. But any feedback about anything we've missed or any suggestions is very welcome.
All right, thank you, Jules. Anything else to highlight?
I think that those are some recent highlights. As always, you should be able to go to the runtime PMC notes to see more comprehensive information about the individual projects.
Yeah, cool. And I'll add the link here. Any questions for Eric or Jules or folks from runtime? No? Okay. We'll move to Open Service Broker. I don't know if Matt is here. He wasn't here last time. I'll ping him, I guess. Or Doug Davis, is he here? No? No idea. I know that they are having a talk at Basel on sort of like the updates for Open Service Broker. And then also I know, just because I've talked to Doug yesterday, that he was in the Bay Area to sort of discuss with a few other parties around Open Service Broker. So there's some updates. If you're interested, we'll definitely make sure that they attend or send me the updates for next time.
Hey, Dr. Max, there's probably 2 key ones. One is that a new release in the 2.x line is open for comments right now. And if you go look at the Open Service Broker mailing list, you'll see that Doug actually shared a kind of initial draft of what a V3 API may end up looking like.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. Yeah, so definitely look at this, and then of course try to attend their session if you're interested in the Open Service Broker. Obviously, register also. Thank you. Dimitri is here, but he mentioned to me he's going to do some introduction. So DK, do you want to go ahead and do that? If you're saying anything, you're on mute.
I wasn't going to do introduction. I was telling you to ask Morgan to do an introduction for Morgan. But, well, here it is. Morgan Fine is one of the new team members joining as a PM on Bosch. And I believe he is here. Yep. I don't see Fred, who is another PM that is joining on Toronto side. But Morgan, do you wanna say something?
Something? No.
Something being what do you call it? I don't know if
highlights, DK. So kind of
like, there you go. That's a good description. That's what we do.
Sure. Hey, I'm Morgan. I've been at Pivotal for 4 years or so now. I was previously on my SQL team. Super excited to check out the Bosch side of the world.
All right, cool. I'm sorry, you were saying something and I cut you.
She was telling me what to say.
Oh.
Yes.
Don't you guys want to highlight the Xenial stem cell that got out and I think it's being tested, or is it already kind of ready for people to try out?
Yeah.
I know we are looking at it. Seriously, I got a bunch of emails yesterday about that.
Awesome. Yeah, so there's now a Xenial stem cell line that's out. We're trying to encourage everyone to start testing it and give us feedback as quickly as possible, and start moving forward to that. It should be up on Bosch.io pretty quickly as well. Or it's there already, sorry. So definitely please start testing it and let us know how it's working for you.
Cool. I also see Danny Berger. Yes, Berger. Sorry, Danny, I'm butchering your name. Do you want to add anything to kind of like what people should be thinking about for Bosch? No?
I think the Xenial testing is the main thing that we're interested in. We're continuing on some of our other stuff. We've done a few patch releases on Bosch 266. There were some links issues that showed up. People may want to update. Otherwise, just kind of continuing on the tracks. I think one other one we're working on right now is improving PBR integration for backups on director sides. So I think that's about it.
Sweet, thank you very much. Okay, so last chance for Bosch. Any question? Anybody wants to mention something? Anything? No? I'll mention one thing. I think I've said it publicly and I'll say it again. Dimitri has been really phenomenal on Bosch. We all know that. We don't acknowledge it sometimes, but we do it privately, but I'll do it publicly and embarrass him. He is a fearless leader, fearless sort of, proponent of Bosch and open source and certainly what Pivotal does here. And we're going to miss him a lot. But the good thing is he's actually right here. I know where he sits. We all do.
We need to take a webcam and go and take it to his desk. And
I think what Dr. Mack's saying is there's no escape.
Exactly. So in other words, if you are looking for a spot and nobody can enter it, you need his help. Ping him, and I'm sure he'll be happy to respond. Thank you, DK.
We love you, Dimitri.
Love you too. Thank you. It's definitely been fun.
All right, cool. So we'll do the last thing and then we'll go to the talks. For extensions, the main highlight is that we have a proposal out. I believe it's the first time, at least in an open source setting and as part of the CFF, that there is a project that sort of merges or marries or connects Cloud Foundry with this hot new thing called blockchain. Maybe not so hot anymore, but certainly people are spending money on this, losing their money too.
it connects blockchain with this hot new thing, Cloud Foundry. That's the
maybe. Thank you, Jules. That's another way to say it. Anyways, the point is that this proposal was submitted. It's the winner of the hackathon in Boston. The team, in particular, Nima Kaviani from IBM and the rest of the team there are looking forward to your feedback. They've submitted the proposal. I know they're very serious. Yesterday, they were working on more stuff. So you'll see a lot more things and they'll have an inception and all this. But we need you right now to sort of take a look at the proposal, take a look at the video from the last from presentation, and give us your feedback, right? Because part of this open process is to allow you to mention what you like, what you don't like. You don't necessarily, give feedback on the direction. We're going to try to do a vote soon, so you don't have a lot of time. I would say I'll close the feedback tomorrow. I said tonight, but since I'm mentioning it today, I give you guys a day and a half or two to give some feedback, and then we'll go to a vote. And then once it's voted in or not, then we'll go to the extension, and it becomes part of the CFF, and the code will migrate there, and there'll be I guess, a tracker with all the good stuff that comes with that. Okay, so take a look at it. I believe if you don't have the link, I'll put it in the notes once I get a chance to type. And Nima is actually local to SF, so if you want to talk to him, you can do that too. He's part of the Diego team, so you can look for where Eric and the rest of the team is, and you'll find him. Okay, so that's the main highlight for extensions. Let me stop here and see if there's any question for any of the things we've discussed so far. And then let me ask Ashish to start getting ready for his presentation, which is going to be about Service Fabric and some of the updates. And then after that, we'll go to Stock and Wayne for Shield V8. So Ashish, if you can get ready. If you have questions, you don't want to talk or you can't talk because you're in a loud place, just type it in the chat or Slack it to me and I'll read it for you.
Sure, Dr. Max. So I think then I can get started.
Yeah, go ahead and share your screen. I don't see any question coming, so might as well get started. Okay, you'll have about 20 minutes, so we can give also 20 minutes to Jameson.
Sure. Okay. So you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right, great. Okay, so so we start with Service Fabric. So there are a few updates on Service Fabric, and then there is a demo lined up. So today I have a couple of committers also with me who will take us through demo. So Saurav and Pritish actually so work for Service Fabric, so they will go ahead with the demo. So agenda is, so we'll quickly have some project updates and then followed by a demo. Yeah. So so during the CAP call for the month of May, that is where I actually presented the development plan for Service Fabric. So these were some of the items which we planned for at least for the next by the next CF summit. So and now since we are almost at the midway, I think it really makes sense to basically present the status of each of these items. The first one is Service Fabric 2.0. So this is where this was also presented during the Boston Summit, where we spoke about our plans to evolve the Service Fabric design. So the SF1.0 design was quite opinionated. So the plan is to basically move it to a more modular design where the ease of onboarding the other projects, for example, BBR, or for example, bringing in some provisioners like KTS becomes seamless. The development for this is still ongoing as it is a major change for us. And but by the time we get to Service Fabric 2.0, in addition to what we have today as part of the deployment, we will also end up with the CFCR HCD BOSH release, and the KTS API server will also be utilized basically to implement the control loop design for Service Fabric. So development is incremental as of today, and currently we have been able to at least bring in some of the components, HCD and Kubernetes API server. In addition to this, some of the implementations on the locking part has also been moved from Cloud Foundry CF to basically HCD. Along with that, some of the backup controllers has been implemented. Service Fabric client for API server has been completed. And now the major part of basically rewriting some of the controllers. So today we provision BOSH as well as Docker-based services. So these controllers implementation is ongoing as of today. And then there are some operation controllers which has to be rewritten, basically the bind controllers and the restore and the backup controllers. And then we are quite hopeful that it should be done before the Basel Summit. So yeah, so that's about the Service Fabric 2.0. The next one is Service Fabric HA, NZDM, and multi-AZ on. So this was another item which we have proposed, and this was proposed for all the EAS, basically on AWS, Azure, GCP, as well as OpenStack. So as of today, the development is completed for all the EAS except Azure. And but we are currently kept GCP and OpenStack implementation under observation to just run some tests and make a note of the behavior. And so today we plan to present a demo on this, as well as during the Basel Summit, there is a session planned where we'll talk about the nitty-gritties of implementing HA and ZDM multi-AZ for a stateful broker, covering all the EAS, and then again there will be a demo also. So that's about the Service Fabric HA story. Rate limiting, yeah. So this again, the primary motivation for this story was to address some of the limitations actually of BOSH. For example, giving a fair share to the various lifecycle operations, and then again, basically being fault tolerant towards BOSH unavailability. So this is, and then again, not to basically put indeterministic load on BOSH. So this story has already been completed, and this is available for people to use. Then next one is deployment hooks. This is where Service Fabric today provides capability to service owners to basically define some of the hooks for the lifecycle operations. Basically, for example, a pre-create hook or a pre-update hook or a pre-delete hook or even a pre-bind or pre-unbind hooks. And then this implementation actually runs in a secure, isolated manner, allowing only for some specific sys calls. So we do restrict some of the calls, for example, the network calls. And then during the CF Summit in the Basel, there is another session which is lined up for this, where we will talk about how we have basically implemented this in an so that the load so basically the workloads are run in an isolated and a secure manner actually. So that's another session which will be presented by a couple of our committers. The last two items we are yet to get started on that. But more details can be found in the trackers actually. And now I think we can move on to the demo. So I'll ask Pritish and Saurav, kindly you can share your screen and then we can get started on the demo.
Yeah. Thanks, Ashish.
Yeah. So any questions still here, Dr. Max or anyone? Yeah.
I don't see anything on the chat, so let's go ahead and continue. We have about 14 minutes.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Excellent.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Yeah. So today we'll be talking about the Service Fabric high availability. So I'll quickly go over the design and the motivation behind.
You can minimize your window. Actually, I think I can see your window here. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
Is it okay now?
Yeah. Fine. Okay. I mean, you can maybe do a full screen. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
Fine. Yeah. So the motivation behind was this: SF service broker was single node VM, so that was obviously single point of failure, and also a couple of points like it was not DR disaster recovery compliant. So one VM was running in a particular availability zone, and if that in that zone the data center is completely down, so it will not be and then DR compliant. So also during the update of this Service Fabric, so it used to take around 1 to 10 minutes in regular updates, around minutes when the package or code update used to happen, and then around the stem cell update it used to take quite a few minutes, around 5 to 10 minutes. So to address all these issues, so we come up with the approach where Service Fabric broker will be having two nodes. So it will be basically in the master-slave model, follow master-slave model, and it will be having also the zero downtime deployment, in the sense when the failover happens, suppose one node is down or during the update or any catastrophic failure of that node or in that availability zone, so the failover happens in few seconds, in worst case around 10 to 15 minutes. Also, as I mentioned, the two nodes will be situated in two different availability zone. So thus we make the SFHA, and also the backbone for this master-slave architecture, we have to make utilization of keep alive D, where the keep alive D basically figures out which node is master, which node is slave. So based on that, so master will be serving the request at any point of time. So this whole model we have proposed for GCP, OpenStack, AWS, and Azure ESS, as Ashish mentioned. So this is a block diagram of HA cluster. So this is the cloud controller. So there will be two VMs for the broker, VM1 and VM2. Those are two different zones, and one VM will be acting as a master, another VM will be acting as a backup or standby node. So there will be highly available IP or HAIP. So in case of GCP, it will be a load balancer IP. So all the request lifecycle requests like create, bind, unbind, delete of a service instances, right? So those will be happening via this highly available IP, and all the traffic will be forwarding to the master node at any point of time via this IP. And when the failover actually happens, so then the traffic gets forwarded to the second VM, which was the standby VM that point of time. So that becomes the new master, and the traffic goes there, and the requests are served by that VM, by that node after failover. So it happens in 10 to 15 seconds in worst case. Usually it is around 4 to 6 seconds. So in this demo, so quickly we'll set up a demo, and in this demo we'll be showing the basic HA setup on multi-AZ or SF cluster. Then one failover scenario where we will see the broker process down. As you know already that our SF broker is based on BOSH release, and so we'll be making process down of a service broker. Then an overview of the load balancer on GCP console. Then we'll be see the downtime measurement by the via CFF. So I'll hand over to Pritish. Then we'll be answering the questions. So Pritish, over to you.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, Saurabh. So, as Saurabh mentioned, so we'll go ahead with the demo. First will be the HA setup. So, as you know that Service Fabric is a BOSH release deployment. So, first what I will do is that I'll show how our deployment looks like. So, these are the VMs that Service Fabric is currently deployed with. As you can see that one of our node belongs to Z1 and one of the other node belongs to Z2. So, basically the deployment is spread across multiple VMs so that we are, suppose one of the nodes in one of the AZs goes down, then the other the other node is able to come up and still serve the process. So on my screen on the left hand side you can see one of the nodes, and on the right hand side you can see the other node. So on the left hand side we have the master node which is present in Z1, and on the right hand side I have the slave node which is present on Z2. So I'll showcase a very small demo of the use case. One of our use cases is a create service instance, which is done through the broker process or the broker or a broker process running in one of the nodes. So first, what I will do is that I'll do a simple. I'll just go into one of the nodes and just tail the log so that we can see which request is coming to which node, so that we know that which is master and serving the request and which is slave and dormant, and when it becomes master then it will serve the request. So for example, these are the nodes. On my left hand side you can see some of the logs are moving because some of the activity is going on. So now what I will do is that I will do a simple catalog I'll hit the catalog of broker. So you can see that the log started responding on my left hand side, which means that that node is active and serves as master right now. So moving on, if I go to one of the operations that we want to create, we want to showcase here. So for example, I will create a blueprint instance here. So if, okay, so before doing that, what I'll showcase is that we are using, since this is a GCP landscape, so we are using a Google load balancer, so load balancer provided by GCP for load balancing between the two nodes of Service Fabric broker. So this is a load balancer that we have. This is a GCP console that I'm showcasing. So if I go into this load balancer, we have two nodes. So the way I was showing you on the BOSH console, that one of the nodes is master, the other one is slave. So the master is now showing as healthy. So the logic that we have put up here is that if a node is master, then it shows as healthy for the load balancer, so that the traffic is redirected to that node. Coming back to our demo, so I'll now fire a create instance. So the call has gone to the broker master node. Now what I will do is that I will simulate a use case. So for example, let's say I bring down all the processes in this node. So this could have been one of the scenarios as sort of discussed, that this could have been a scenario for a rolling update, or let's say a VM failure, or let's say an AZ failure. One of the scenarios could be that. So even if we have one of the scenarios like this, then the other node should take up the traffic, and we should shortly see that the other node picks up the traffic and starts working. As you can see now that the other node had started picking up the traffic now. So basically CF does a last operation call on the broker. So since we have already stopped the node on the master, so the slave has picked up the traffic and the operation is going on. So if I just watch over this creation process, so this should succeed nevertheless, even though one of our nodes is down, because other node is still up and serving the request. So similarly, if we go back to the console, as we were discussing a while back, so now that the other node has become the master, we should shortly see the switchover. As you can see here, the first node which was healthy has now become down or unhealthy, and the other node which was unhealthy has now become unhealthy. Become healthy. So that is why the traffic is getting redirected here. So this process will take some time to complete. It's just a simple blueprint service that we provision through our broker. Meanwhile, we can maybe take some questions if there is any from the audience.
I got one question. Any reason why Bosch DNS cannot be used instead of a load balancer?
Speaker off. Speaker is on,
right? Was there a question that I missed? Hello?
Yeah, I was asking if Bosch DNS can be used instead of a load balancer. It seems like it might be fairly expensive to set up all of the machinery for virtual IPs or load balancer. Bosch DNS does provide similar functionality if it's if DNS is being resolved within the cluster.
So Dimitri, I think so we haven't evaluated this option actually, but we can definitely look into it. And but the idea was to be more cloud native in this case, and I think that is why we have gone with approaches which have been quite specific to the target infrastructure. For example, in case of AWS, we use the virtual IP based approach, and where we basically float the virtual IP, and then again depending on for example, for OpenStack, we use the allowed address pair approach, and then in case of GCP, we have got the load balancer approach. So that was the thought process behind some of these implementations. But as you said, we can definitely look into it, and then we can evaluate that option as well.
Yeah. One challenge when doing that approach, well, there's two challenges, right? One is all IaaSes are suddenly different, right? Which means that they now have their own intricacies. But the second, I think, more interesting challenge is that, one of the failure scenarios you were mentioning is an AZ failure. And when an AZ failure happens, depending on the IaaS, right, you may not potentially be able to use their APIs to do changes, right? So, for example, sometimes maybe, an API won't be available to change your virtual IP, right? So that's one of the kind of failure scenarios that's very hard to deal with if you're relying on the IaaS, because when the IaaS is in the failure mode, there is no guarantee how it will react.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Don't forget, you have about, guys, about 2.5 minutes, so we can pass it to the next demo. So maybe you can show us the next thing and certainly note, DK's comment here.
If you guys need a little extra time, go ahead and take it. I probably don't have 20 minutes worth of material. So.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks, James. So if you guys need a little bit more time, that's cool. But let's say, see if you can wrap it up in about 7 minutes. 7.
Yeah. Okay. Apart from that, as we saw that this operation succeeded right now. So if you check here the CF service status, so the operation has now succeeded. So the use case that we were trying to show here was simple, that even if a user has fired a request and in between that our broker process goes down or some sort of AC failure occurs or some VM due to some process the process goes down, still the broker is able to serve the request and complete the operation. So this was one of the scenarios which I wanted to demonstrate. Now I'll demonstrate one turbulent so we will trigger one turbulence incident, and we will showcase the failover time that the broker takes for bringing the other node back to master. So I'll just bring up all the processes back on this node so that we are able to simulate the incident. So what is happening in this incident is that we will be killing one of the broker nodes. So I need an app, CF app, which does a ping operation on this. So I'll just start the app here. Yes, so the way I was explaining is that what we are doing in this turbulence incident, so I have now triggered the turbulence incident. So what we are doing here is that we are trying to kill one of the broker VMs here, and maybe that kill could have been a delete operation. So it's a simple turbulent incident that we can see on the turbulence release. So we are trying to simulate that incident, and we are going to check that how fast the broker recovers from that failure. So the zeros here indicate that the broker is still available, and the timestamps are like the ping operation is happening every 1 second, so the timestamp indicates that. And once the ping operation, once the broker goes down, then we will see the value 1, which indicates an unavailability status, and then if it comes back up, then it will say that it has come back up within this interval. So meanwhile, maybe I can just show that this operation is going on. Maybe I can check that. So as you can see that one operation is going on the BOSH, that it is trying to kill the node. So it will take a couple of minutes here. So if there are any further questions that we can take up.
I have a quick question. Is your service broker, does it have any state that needs to be transitioned across from the active to the passive?
Yes. So I mean, it doesn't need to transit any state as such, but it's modeled such a so it cannot work being both node being active. So one at a time it should serve the request. So it also maintains a state now as part of SF 2.0 in etcd.
So there are few operations where it could lead to race conditions, and that is to avoid such race conditions is why we have implemented in a master slave architecture. Yeah.
Sure.
I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
It does.
Thanks.
I had one question.
Sorry, I interrupted. Yes, please go ahead.
I know you're targeting GCP. Does this work in, I know you're using KeepAliveD. Does this work in vSphere if you're using VRRP? Do you guys have support for virtual router address trading?
For vSphere, we haven't tried this actually for vSphere, so we're not very sure about that.
Okay. Because one thing you may want to look at, the HA proxy BOSH release in Incubator it uses KeepAliveD on the HA proxy nodes, and they trade a VIP back and forth, which takes the place of your IaaS load balancer, but it generally only works inside things like on-prem vSphere. In fact, we did try it in Google and it doesn't work, but if you get into the vSphere side of that might be helpful.
Sure, okay. Yeah. We'll look into it. Yeah, sure.
And I'm out of questions now.
That's good. Are we supposed to see a different screen because we're still seeing the turbulence?
Yes, so now that the turbulence test has ended, so I just wanted to showcase here. So at 36, as you can see this timestamp, so at 36 the broker started becoming down, so that's why the warning came that the broker is down, and it came back up at the last down signal that we got was on 49, and by 50 it came back up. So simply by subtraction I can say that we took around 14 seconds for the failover to happen. So the broker process came back up within 14 seconds. So on running a turbulence test, we see that our broker process failover time is approximately, so best case that we get around is like 5 to 6, depends on the scenario basically. So first what we simulated was a process down scenario. This is a like kill VM scenario. So best case we get around 6 to 7 seconds, and worst case we get around 15 seconds failover time. So that is all that I wanted to showcase in the demo. So thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, thanks, Saurav, and thanks, Pritesh. Yeah, I think if there are no other questions, then I think we can go ahead with the next one.
Cool. So I guess the thing to remind people is that Service Broker is part of the extensions group. It's been there for a while, and I would encourage you to take a look at it. It works, and I guess Ashish can add more, but not only on CF, but also I think they added support for Kubernetes. So if you wanted to manage your services there, and it's sort of a management platform for your services, right? So I would say if you are looking for things like this, especially with HA support now, pay attention to that instead of trying to recreate it yourself. And they're looking for feedback and help. So feel free to ping Ashish and the team.
Sure, and I think you can reach out to us using the GitHub channel as well as Slack. So we do have a Slack channel as well. So feel free to post any questions there. Yeah, and
excellent. And it's obviously Service-Fabric or Service Fabric, I guess. The channel.
Service-Fabric actually. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Ashish. Okay, so I don't see any other questions. So maybe Ashish, if you can stop your screen sharing, and then we'll pass it to our friends at Stock and Wayne. Yeah. I think James Hunt is here to talk about Shield V8. Yes, we can see your screen, James. Go ahead. But we don't hear you.
Am I unmuted now? All right.
Yes, you are. Nice. Good.
I'm my AV person. I'm kidding, Ashley. You're doing a great job. So I thought I'd give a little bit of update on Shield. A little bit of background on Shield to start. If you're not familiar with it, Shield is an open source project Stark and Wayne spearheaded about 2.5 years ago to bring backup services into Cloud Foundry because we've got a lot of clouds out there spinning and they're making life great and wonderful for devs. But the ops guys were getting a little bit nervous because all the data was sitting out there and no one was backing it up. So we built Shield. We went through a couple of revisions on the UI. This last year, we finished up the V8 UI, which is a complete retooling and more operator focused. I did give my presentation at CF Summit in Boston about Shield. That video is online. I think from the cloudfoundry.org website, you can find all those talks. I was going to give a demo during that talk, and that didn't really work out because live demos, fun stuff. As it turns out, I'm not going to give a demo today because I didn't have enough time to pull it together. If there's interest, I can go ahead and look at doing one next CAB call. What I wanted to talk about today was some of the community outreach stuff we're going to start doing and have started doing with Shield as a project. For a while, Shield kind of languished as a github.com/starkandwayne/shield. And that's where you went for everything. A lot of GitHub issues, a lot of pull requests, but no real community or documentation. So starting early this year, we went ahead and put together shieldproject.io. This is still a work in progress, but this is our primary focus on the marketing and outreach side of things. Shieldproject.io is going to become our primary communication channel with everyone. So starting from the front, this is my open source sales pitch. We write a lot of software, and a lot of software doesn't get a lot of marketing because it's open source. So we're trying something different by trying to explain what the things that we have built are. And we're starting with Shield. So a little bit of a landing page, a discussion of all the things Shield can do, what platforms we support, and then some blog stuff. We're going to be co-locating all of our documentation here, starting with the Shield Operator's Manual. This is all live, by the way, so you can go look at this today. Please do be advised it is still a work in progress, and we're working hard to flesh out a lot of the documentation. But we're starting an ops manual to try and take some of the edge off of getting this thing up and running, because I've talked to a lot of people in the community, and there's a lot of questions about what Shield is and how it works. Questions that shouldn't be questions anymore, and we're trying to turn those into answers. So there'll be a lot of information here in the doc side for operators wishing to spin Shield. We've got starting up our plugins reference. Plugins is how Shield does backup. So if you want to back up Postgres, for example, you would come out and look at the Postgres plugin, and it would provide all the configuration necessary to do your backups and your restores. So now, we used to put all this on godoc.org because we're a bunch of developers and assumed that everyone else in the world loved reading godocs. Turns out that's not the case, so we're kind of putting it here on the website. The other side of things from documentation is the developers' documentation. We're trying to be better about involving open source public community in the development process of Shield, and understanding the roadmap, and understanding how the thing works under the hood and how to contribute. The first thing, and really about the only thing that's on the dev side of the website right now, is the Shield API reference. So if you've ever had to try and curl something against Shield, if you're curious about how to get a list of all stores for a tenant, all this stuff is now out there, and this is procedurally generated through a concourse pipeline. So as we push changes up and make releases, the website updates automatically, because I'll be the first to admit I'm way too lazy to do these things by hand. So I will use concourse wherever I can. Similarly, from an automation standpoint, we are syndicating our GitHub releases over to the website. We're not writing any release notes specific to the website, so these are the same as they are on GitHub. But this is trying to facilitate the goal of getting everyone to go through shieldproject.io for anything they need about Shield. And to finish up, I want to talk about the community page because, as I said, this is a lot about community outreach. We do have a Slack org that we're running now. We still run the Shield channel in CF Slack if you're interested. The main reason we spun up our own Slack org is we have users and use cases outside of Cloud Foundry, and a lot of them were a little reluctant to join CF Slack just to talk to us about Shield. So we'll be probably in both places for the foreseeable future. Our dev stuff is all taking place on the actual Shield Slack. We have Teams channels and things that we're doing. But that's there if you need help. We've listed up all the GitHub stuff. We've got a Trello board now, and we're using the Trello board to kind of prioritize all of our work outside of GitHub issues. We tried GitHub projects and weren't too thrilled with it. GitHub issues are hard. We might look at Pivotal Tracker, but for now we're doing Trello. So this is kind of it's a public board with non-open membership. So if you want to keep track of where we're at and what we're working on, this is where to go, what we're doing. And the last thing I wanted to follow up on or finish up on was our Shield roadmap call. So I had some conversations with folks at CF Summit, and the biggest blocker most people had in wanting to get involved in Shield was not knowing where the heck we were going. Where Stark and Wayne was going with Shield, where the open source side of Shield was going. So we put together this roadmap call. We just had our first call last Thursday. We'll be doing these every Thursday or every second Thursday of the month over Zoom. And it's just a place to get in and talk to the Shield devs, figure out where we're going, what we're doing. We'll be running through the Trello board. We'll be talking about future direction and new features. And then my favorite part of this is the open forum, which is where anybody can join and we just talk through issues. Any issues you're having deploying, any questions you have, any gaps that you've noticed in the project. Pretty much it's an open, users can come to us and tell us what they think. And then after each call, we are posting summaries. This is actually more of a novel than a summary, but that's my fault. So that's where we're at with Shield, trying to get a little bit more community engagement and trying to get a little bit more public visibility on the project, because it's good software. It just has a bad marketing. So I encourage you to go check out Shield Project, read the docs, join the Slack. Obviously, the next call will be August 9th at 11 a.m. Eastern. As I was joking with Dr. Max, it's really hard to schedule a call so that the West Coast and Europe can join. Sorry, India. There's no way to make this work in a global OSS environment. So join the call, take a look, come talk to us on Slack.
All right. Thank you, James. Well, we might be able to finish early today. Any questions, comments? All right. I'll say that I was expecting a demo, but James, it's okay. I won't scorn you for that. You guys from Stark and Wayne get a pass. I think Dr. Nick earned that one for you guys and the rest. So it's okay. But Shield obviously is a fantastic project. I would say to people, pay attention to. It's real. So you didn't see a demo, it's actually real, and there's lots of things going on behind it. If you're looking for data protection, backup, recovery, definitely.
Dr. Max, next time you need content, I will do a demo of Shield.
That's okay.
Give me a little bit more notice.
No problem. No problem. All right. So with that, we will end early today, and then we have another call scheduled next month. If you have something to show us, an update or new project, exciting stuff, we usually like to have a demo, but obviously it's not always possible. Let me know, ping me, and then also please register for the summit. Come see us in Basel. It's a great place. Switzerland has a lot of cool mountains. I will tell you that right now. So make sure you come. All right. See you guys there. Take care, everybody. Bye. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Max. Bye. Yeah.